Hey Geometry, so we're continuing 9-4 compositions of transformations, and so we're going to do just basically some practice with a bunch of different composite transformations of this same figure. So P, triangle P, where P is at 2, 2, N is at 3, -1, and B is at negative 1, -2. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw that on here real quick to speed this up. All right, there we go. Got the same triangle copied down a bunch of times. So this first one, we're going to go through these couple of transformations. First, we're going to do a translation. We're going to add 2 to the x coordinates, shift the thing, right? And then reflect over the line y equals 3. So the first step, we're shifting 2 to the right. X was plus 2. So for instance, P was at 2, 2. Now if we add 2 to the x coordinate, we're at 4, 2. And so P ends up over here, N ends up 2 to the right, and B ends up 2 to the right. And so this would be P prime, N prime, and B prime with that figure translated over there a little bit. And so that would be P prime is at 4, 2. B prime is at 1, -2, and N prime is at 5, -1. So we've just basically added 2 to each of those x coordinates. The next part we're going to do, so this is our glide, and then we're going to do a reflection over the line y equals 3. So y equals 3 is, I did not draw that very well, right around there. Erase some of this mess. Ended up getting a little high there, but we're going up, above that line, y equals 3. So we're going to reflect over that. And I'm just going to do this P prime, and so P prime was at 2, go 3, so we're going to be up at 4. We're going to go up 1 from there. N was 1, 2, 3, 4 below, so we're going to go 4 above, 1, 2, 3, 4 above. Put us up here at 7. There it is. And B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 below, so we're going to end up 5 above, and so from 3 to 5 is 8. That's where we're going to be. So hopefully I get that about right. Sorry, that's hard with this grid, did not copy particularly well. And so that's where B double prime is, N double prime, and P double prime ends up there after we do our glide and then our reflection. All right, so P double prime ends up at 4, 4 after that reflection. N double prime ends up at, 5, 7, and 5, 7, and B double prime ends up at 1, 8. And that was our glide reflection. All right, the next one, we're trying to do these transformations. We're going to reflect it over the line y equals -3 and then the x-axis. So the line y equals -3 would be like right there. So we're going to reflect over that line first. So bringing B down here for B prime, N down there for N double prime. Try and get that point right. I guess it's -5. And then that one's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So 5 below there. So that put us, I guess, at -8. If I got that in the right spot, that looks a little, this point should be a little higher. Or maybe a little lower. But there is our image after we reflect that. So N prime, P prime, B prime. And then we're going to reflect it over the x-axis. So it's going to be reflected over this line here. And so this is the line of reflection, I guess. I can kind of try and shade it in a little bit. And so N is at -5, so it goes to +5. P is at -8, so it looks like +8. And B is at I think that should be 4, so it goes to +4. And so ultimately, with a couple of reflections over some horizontal lines, y equals, and then the x-axis, this ends up being a translation up, just translated up there. So P double prime and B double prime. And let me fill in those points. So that's where those points will end up there. Again, it just looks like it's a translation straight up. The next one, we're going to be translating. So we're going +2 to the right and +2 up, and then we're going to be rotating 90 degrees. And since that doesn't say a direction, we're going to go with the counterclockwise direction. So that's the default. So first thing, we're going to take all these. We're going to go right 2, up 2. So right 2, up 2, puts us there. Right 2, up 2. We get that in the right-ish spot. Again, this would be nice if this copy was a little better. Right 2, up 2 puts us there. So there is our P prime, N prime, and B prime. And those points both, all added to. So P ends up at 4, 4. B prime ended up at 1, 0. And N prime ended up at 5, 1. All right, so then we're going to rotate this, and we're going to rotate this counterclockwise. So basically, we're going to take that point there, and again, I think the easiest way to do this is just kind of turn the sheet. So B was 1 to the right of the origin, and we're gonna the 90 degrees we're going to assume right around the origin. So we're going to 1 to the right here, change color, and so that's where B double prime will end up. N is 5 right, 1 up. So if we turn this sideways, 5 right and 1 up from there. So it ends up being at -1, 5. And then P is 4 right, 4 up. So from that direction, it's going to be 4 right, 4 up, and put us about there after we do our rotation. So this was P double prime, this was N double prime, and B double prime. So translated that up and then rotated that around. And so those points, we've got P is at -4, 4. And then N is at -1, 5. Sorry, -1, 5. And B is at 0, 1. And to do that 90-degree rotation, we're flipping the coordinates or flipping the X and Y and making the X negative. All right, and then the last one here, we are reflecting over the line X equals 1 and then over the line Y equals -X. So first over the line X equals 1, so X equals 1 would be right there, that vertical line. So as we reflect over that, we're 2 to the right, so N starts out 2 to the right here, so we'll end up 2 to the left. So N will go here, B's to the left, it'll end up 2 to the right. So B prime's there, N prime's there, and then P's 1 to the right, it'll go 1 to the left of that line of reflection. So there's P prime, prime on this side, N prime, and B prime. And there's our reflected triangle. And then this one's going to get real messy because we're going to, I guess I'll get these coordinates down real quick. So P is at 0, 2. B prime is at 3, negative. It should be -2. Doesn't look real great. So 3, -2. And N is at -1, -1. All right, so this is going to get a little messy. We're going to reflect over this line Y equals -X, which is the line that kind of comes right through here. Let's see, let me try and get through here properly. So it should be there. Try and get some points through there so we can just see that angle properly. I didn't draw it super well on this side, but try to get a little more there. So that's the line that we're going to reflect over. And so when you do this here, this point, so like B, for instance, I guess we'll start with that. That's pretty close to the line. It's easy to see. So we're 3 right and 2 down. So when we reflect over that line, we want to be 3 down and 2 right. So like, so we end up in this location here. It's going to end up being real close to this through 3 down, 2 right. And so we can ultimately start to see, kind of hopefully you can start to see the pattern that establishes. So we went -3, +2. I got that backwards, sorry. 3 down, 2 right. So it's we do switch those signs. So that should actually be 2 right and then -3 down. So You can start to notice the pattern there when reflecting over y equals negative x. We switch spots and switch both signs. So as I'm reflecting p here, for instance, it's up here at 0, 2. So this is going to be at negative 2, 0. So nothing to change about that sign. And then n is at negative 1, 1, or negative 1, negative 1. So it's actually going to go positive 1, positive 1. So this is going to get real messy in there. But that triangle ends up looking like that. And so that would be B double prime there. Oh crap, no, I'm way off. Sorry, P double prime. After both of those transformations, and then this one up here ends up being N double prime. And so N is at 1, 1. Switching the signs and switching the places.